Good afternoon, esteemed traders and investors. Today is Friday, January 9th. I present to your attention another market review for Forex. As always, I'm glad to be here with you today. So today is an important day for currency traders. Today, the unemployment rate in the United States will be announced. Well, as they also say in the United States, it's the change in non-farm payrolls, meaning they count everyone except the farmers when calculating unemployment. At 16:30, the forecast is that it will decrease, but what the actual figure will be is, of course, the question. So at 16:30, expect strong movement, be ready for it. Let's take a look at what can be traded on the charts. Let's go. So, let's begin by discussing gold quotes, which experienced a significant and notable rise by the end of yesterday, steadily climbing and increasing in value throughout the entire American trading session. All in all, during the American session yesterday, they moved almost 8,000 points. And, as we're no longer surprised, they hit the short resistance precisely, from which we're now seeing a slight short correction. We're currently quoting based on yesterday's American session. If you want to make a short-term buy on this instrument, it's definitely better to do it at a slightly lower price. The short resistance zone on the 15-minute time frame, specifically from December 26th, no, we have not reached it yet. We're still just a little bit short of it. Right here. There might be another test here and a good solid move down. But for buying, you need better prices. The Euro-US dollar pair has entered a solid short correction. We've broken through the base of the latest impulse. This instrument just keeps falling and falling. It's right before the news. And quite often it happens that before the news, the price moves in one direction, and after the news, it goes the other way. Maybe this is, of course, just a stretch before the news. The instrument is still in the long breakdown zone, but I think that's not so important anymore. In fact, volatility ahead of the news is quite low. As for the breakdowns, let's mark the short breakdown zone on the 15-minute chart, which appeared a few days ago and which is still present in the market. Let's put it this way, it's in control. You can also see it on the 4-hour chart. This whole story broke down right here. The instrument is trading lower. Where could we end up? Weekly time frame, let's open it up and see that the instrument is falling into the zone of this initiative bar right here. Most likely it will break through it. So we've already had 2 weeks of strengthening of the US dollar. Let me remind you, there's a lot of money below. We still have room to fall, and there are extremes that no one has taken out yet. So for now, of course, selling is interesting, but you need to do it very carefully and thoughtfully. Above the current prices, starting from around 1.17, the pound-dollar pair is essentially copying its major counterpart. It is also falling, and it is also breaking through the base of all these recent impulses. The instrument is declining, and the weekly time frame signals to us that there is plenty of liquidity down here, and since they've already rushed in. Most likely it will also be taken out, so until the 1.33712 level is officially updated, I don't think we'll be heading for the highs just yet at this stage. The Australian dollar is also quite cheap right now. I think the lows of the next 2 weeks, both the current and the previous, will also be broken. Be careful. For longs, there are prices below at 0.66300. It would be interesting to buy up this instrument.
Looking for real trading advantages? Forex offers the lowest spreads and commissions. On major currency pairs, our conditions are better. Lower spreads and only $5 commission instead of $7. That's real savings for every trader. And now, let's get back to the market review.
The dollar Canadian is also rising during the phase of US dollar strengthening. This is good news for those considering selling because there are plenty of targets, there's room to fall, there's a short initiative, and we could enter a third wave. The higher we can push it, the better. Price levels for selling. Dollar yen is on the verge of fulfilling our trading idea for the growth of this instrument. I gave this idea a long time ago and have confirmed it 1,000 times. The situation here is good. There's a double top between November of last year and December, right on December, that was also last year. We're pushing to find the extreme. We've gone through several long breakouts and there's just a little bit left to go. Well, about 300 to 400 points left to go after that. After breaking through these significant extremes, you can now proceed to close the long positions that we originally opened 2 weeks ago. And so, oil has generated a very good and strong long impulse, yet another one, and all of this still fits perfectly within the overall framework of holding the long breakout, let's say pre-Venezuelan. But new impulses are emerging. If we get a pullback to the long breakout that was already marked this week, it would be approximately 0.90. If we drop down, you can buy from here with a stop behind this week's low and aim for solid growth on the breakout of all these extremes and further growth around 63, 64. Bitcoin, like oil, is also standing at a long breakout. However, the level here was trimmed very precisely. But for those who believe in longs, it's actually a pretty good spot to build long positions from 90 to 95 with a stop. Well, even under 85. Here you can get roughly a 1-to-1 ratio.
I also want to remind you that every InstaForex client automatically receives loss insurance. For every $1 of compensation, only $4 of your friend's investments are required. Just submit a request, and your losses will be recovered. Let's continue with the review.
The American stock market, the S&P 500, continues to rise. Notice that no cataclysms, neither devastating wars nor even local crises of any kind are stopping this remarkably bullish financial instrument. It truly feels as though all of this, all the ongoing military and humanitarian negativity and turmoil, is somehow only benefiting the major stock indices, both American and European, rather than hindering them as one might expect. The Nasdaq is also going up. For those who believe in the continued growth of this instrument, please take note, one of the latest long impulse breaks hit the 50% retracement level. We could in fact quite possibly set a new high. This week, notice how overstretched the European stock indices like DAX and TOXX are. It would seem that Europe is facing all sorts of difficulties right now, but the indices are growing astronomically. Astronomically, can you guess who benefits? Including BlackRock, which is profiting from this as well. So, as for the dollar-franc pair, within the framework of the grid trading method, this instrument was of interest to us. We were accumulating longs, and the instrument is rising. Note that one of the most interesting long breakouts held up this week, and the long position and trend continued to develop from it. Those who bought here, well done, but be careful with today's formations. If the dollar is glorified, then of course there is plenty of room for movement upward here with a lot of money involved. All these extremes will be taken out. And if this breakout still holds, those who bought can move their stop higher. So the Canadian dollar-franc pair has also gone flat. It paid for it, meaning it seemed to try to break its short trend here. As long as it stays within the grid trading range, you need to set up a grid of limit buy orders. I don't recommend entering short at the current level. Those who already went short, well done, profit is coming soon. You can take profit when testing the broken level from above at 0.92500. If that's not enough, wait a bit so that each trade brings at least 1,000 points of profit.
With InstaForex, you can triple your profit. For every $4 of your friend's investments, you automatically get an extra $1 added to your profit, with no extra conditions.
The New Zealand dollar-Swiss franc pair is trying to form a third wave up on the weekly time frame. If it does, it will be a good three-wave pattern. If not, then below last year's lows, set up a grid of limit buy orders with a 500-point step. The Aussie-Kiwi pair doesn't want to fall, it's trying to grow. Let me remind you that within the grid strategy, you can accumulate shorts on it with the nearest test of the mirror level, above at 116. For those holding from 1,1700, do not increase your step. By the way, we've already moved 5,000 points from here, which is still within the range. We're waiting for downward corrections to close out this grid, either at break-even or in profit. Euro-Australian dollar is still within the range for now, for setting up a grid of limit sell orders. Above last year's highs, we wait for good prices. And as for Euro-Canadian dollar, if it continues to rise, then above the highs of this year and last year. The grid of limit sell orders has a step of 500. I've marked the grid on the chart, and our server is growing a bit ahead of the news.
We also have a great offer. Fund your account and get a 30% tradable bonus. Trade with additional capital and expand your opportunities with InstaForex.
Let me remind you that a rather interesting level from last week remains at the 70 mark. It's essentially a psychological level, and if you believe in a short impulse, as we saw last week. But pay attention, the short impulse fell precisely into the long breakdown zone. That's not very good news for sellers. But if you are the kind of seller I just described a moment ago, then your short entry zone should actually be a bit higher than usual. That would be right around 79.5 approximately. You can try to go short there and mark out this zone. Naturally keep it tight, mark it clearly and distinctly with a vivid bright red color, and accordingly, if you decide to sell from that specific point, your stop should be placed above the most recent high. So on January 7th, this particular move could have been taken, but I think I ended up missing it at that time. If you bought from these longs, then your first target is either the short breakdown or a new all-time high for this instrument. Friends, InstaForex offers a free consultation with a personal trading consultant. Follow the link in the video description, fill out the callback form, and gain access to exclusive offers and special trading conditions. BRT Plus for risk-free trading. That's all. Trade with InstaForex, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for new reviews.